These ancient structures are proof that extraterrestrial life exists. Our world is home to a multitude of enigmatic structures scattered across various regions. These structures, from different periods in history, contain information that has been hidden for thousands of years and is now revealed in our daily lives. We must accept that we still find it very difficult to understand the structures that, if deciphered, could provide us with a lot of information about the history of modern man and even the history of the solar system. The pyramids of Giza, which have been studied for centuries, still hold information that modern technology cannot explain. The fact that we still do not know exactly how the Great Pyramid and similar ancient structures were built and what they were used for leads us to conclude that extraterrestrial life is a real possibility. They were here thousands of years ago. Or did we receive help from intelligent beings who provided us with technologies that we do not even have today? We cannot answer the above questions with certainty. However, there are those who are certain that extraterrestrials were present on Earth in the past. At this point, it is crucial to evaluate the evidence objectively, without letting our preconceptions influence the outcome. If we succeed, we will better understand our planet's past. Sacsayhuaman. Outside Cusco, the ancient capital of the Inca civilization, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman rises above the Peruvian Andes. The gigantic stones that make up Sacsayhuaman are assembled in a neat fashion, and it is this very structure that led people to believe that they received help from interstellar visitors. Sacsayhuaman has a feature found in many enigmatic structures: the method used to transport the rocks, each almost 4 meters long and weighing 360 tons, 35 kilometers, and lift them into place in perfect alignment is still unknown. Sacsayhuaman was built during the reign of Pachacuti, who lived between 4384 and 4371 BC. This demonstrates the wonderful harmony of the Inca civilization with nature, which, like many ancient civilizations, based its calendar on the movement of the stars. The scientific explanation is that 20,000 people worked on the construction of Sacsayhuaman. The ancient project involved 2 groups of 10,000 people working in cycles. 6,000 laborers extracted and transported the rocks, while 4,000 dug the pits in which they were to be placed. How did they manage to build such a perfect structure with so many people working with very primitive tools? The Nazca Lines are unquestionably one of the most remarkable archaeological sites in the world. The Nazca Lines are located about 320 kilometers from Lima, the capital of Peru. They are the most striking example of geoglyphs in the Peruvian desert. There are more than 800 lines, which can be kilometers long, decorated with 300 geometric shapes and 70 animal figures, including spiders, monkeys, and hummingbirds. Some of the figures are up to 360 meters wide. The Nazca Lines were first studied by the Peruvian archaeologist Toribio Mejia Cespe in 1926. However, the fact that the lines could only be observed from the air made their study extremely difficult at first. In 1941, U.S. researcher Paul Kosak made the crucial discovery that the lines served a purpose. On 22 June 1941, one day after the winter solstice, he noticed that a line he was examining was perfectly aligned with the sunset. On that day, he boldly declared the Nazca Lines to be the greatest astronomical book. This giant book was undoubtedly drawn by extraterrestrials. Maria Reike, a German researcher who dedicated 40 years to studying the lines and devoted herself to preserving the site by living in her house in the Peruvian desert, was certain that Nazca was a calendar adjusted to the astronomical order. The so-called geoglyphs were made by cutting through the rust-colored tops of the rocks to reveal the shiny layer underneath. With the advent of new technology, the theories presented in the mid-1900s were rendered obsolete. Scientists are certain that the Nazca Lines are ritual sites signaling water and fertility. The pyramids of Giza are the most impressive ancient structures in the world. The pyramids of Giza are the most famous ancient structures and sites along the Nile River. Egypt boasts more than 100 pyramids, including those still waiting to be uncovered. They come in all shapes and sizes, and some are unfinished. One of the biggest misconceptions is that they are all tombs. This argument also applies to the Great Pyramid, in which no mummies or the treasure of a king have yet been found. However, we cannot say anything definitive about this, given that the pyramids have been looted for more than a century. Nevertheless, it is a myth that every pyramid along the Nile contains a mummy. In fact, they have different purposes. One of the most intriguing questions about ancient times is how the pyramids of Giza were built. During excavations on and around the Giza Plateau, we found structures housing thousands of laborers and the remains of the workers. We even know how the giant stone blocks were transported. The ancient Egyptians easily pulled the sleds on which the rocks were placed by wetting the sand. The Great Pyramid, consisting of 210 layers, was 146 meters long when it was completed. Herodotus's notes confirm that the Great Pyramid was constructed using 2,300,000 stone blocks, weighing between 1 and 10 tons. It took 30 years to prepare and 20 years to build. Herodotus lived 1,600 years after the construction of the pyramids of Giza. His notes are undoubtedly one of the most important ancient works on the construction of the pyramids. However, it is extremely challenging to ascertain the veracity of the information it contains. The perfect geometry of the Giza pyramids, located according to the three sisters representing the belt of the constellation Orion, is well known. However, the stone blocks weighing tons that were carried up to 146 meters remain a mystery. Many theories have been put forward to answer this question, which is almost impossible to do with modern technology. But each of them makes the project, which involved tens of thousands of laborers, much more difficult. The most perplexing aspect of the Great Pyramid of Giza is how it was constructed in just 23 to 30 years. Were the ancient Egyptians another civilization that received help from extraterrestrials? Stonehenge. Stonehenge is undoubtedly one of the most disappointing tourist attractions, but it is also a very mysterious ancient structure. Stonehenge is located outside the city of Salisbury and is made up of blocks of stone, each weighing around 50 tons. The Neolithic circular structure was described by Swiss author Erich von Däniken as a model of the solar system and a landing site for aliens. I would like to make one note in this context about the researcher Zecharia Sitchin, who died in 2010. Sitchin, the first person to decipher Sumerian tablets, was certain that the pyramids of Giza were a starport where spacecraft landed. Those who have researched this subject will be aware of the theory that the three giant granite layers inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, each weighing 7 tons, were placed to send vibrations into space. These vibrations undoubtedly indicate the location of the pyramids to spacecraft. The opening scene of Stargate from 1994 offers an intriguing insight into this subject. The most puzzling question about Stonehenge inevitably leads to Göbekli Tepe. How did the people who built this structure carry the giant rocks hundreds of kilometers away and then bring them to an upright position? Scientists are certain that 5,000 years ago, humans had the technology to build a structure like Stonehenge. Stonehenge was built to accommodate important celestial events, such as solstices and eclipses. Ancient people who observed the sky undoubtedly used it to help them construct their astronomical calendars. Teotihuacan. The film Apocalypto is Gibson's best production as a director. He's matured a bit since his days as a soldier and warrior. The film copies the pyramids in Tikal, one of the largest cities of the Mayans, and shows sacrificial rituals. Despite its flaws, the film provides valuable insights into the grandeur of the Mayan civilization. Another important city of the Mayans is Teotihuacan, with temples built according to astronomical events. Teotihuacan, meaning City of the Gods, was an extraterrestrial place compared to how it was built 2,000 years ago. Scientists are certain that the city, which had an advanced agricultural and transport system and was home to more than 100,000 people in the 5th and 6th centuries, was built by the Mayan, Zapotec, and Mixtec cultures. The most famous structure of the ancient city is the magnificent Pyramid of the Sun. The Pyramid of the Sun is one of the largest stone structures in the Northern Hemisphere. It was built between 1 and 250 AD. The most intriguing detail is that the cave beneath the 65-meter-long pyramid opens into a room shaped like a 4-leaf clover. The items found in the room, which was used for rituals, date back to before the construction of the pyramid. The enormous structure, which contains 765,000 cubic meters of material, serves as an astronomical calendar. It is worth noting that the Sun, Moon, and Quetzalcoatl, representing the 3 great pyramids in Teotihuacan, are positioned facing the 3 sisters in the constellation Orion. Easter Island. Easter Island is the world's farthest landmass from the coast. It is home to hundreds of giant sculptures whose secret is still unsolved. The island is home to around 900 giant statues, many of which are scattered around and left unfinished. It is inconceivable that these statues, called moai, could have been made by primitive people who lived on the island for centuries. not to mention that the statues are at least 1,000 years old. Easter Island is a volcanic landmass that is no longer active. The statues, which are nearly 4.5 meters tall and weigh about 14 tons, were shaped with volcanic tuff from the Rano Raraku quarry. One of the first things that was noticed since they were examined is that many of the completed sculptures were left unmoved. It is clear that hundreds of sculptures were left unfinished, which raises the question of why the same thing was done with hundreds of others. The key question is how the giant statues were transported. As with similar ancient structures, many theories have been put forward about how the sculptures, which are almost 3 human-sized statues arranged in a neat order, were transported. However, many of these theories, such as the method of swinging them on both sides with ropes, are not definitive answers. We must consider the fundamental questions that we may not discover until the Earth becomes uninhabitable. We must ask ourselves, why were the Moai built? If the ancient civilization on the island built them, they must have lost their skills. We must ask ourselves, what happened to the tools with which they made and carried the giant statues? It is possible that an extraterrestrial civilization once visited the island, which they called the center of the world. They may have given the locals superior knowledge. After they left, the locals used this knowledge to fight a war that would destroy their civilization. This is, of course, just a theory. This is the biggest obstacle to understanding the ancient history of our planet. We simply do not have the technology or knowledge to decipher the relationship between extraterrestrial civilizations and ancient structures. Furthermore, prejudices are preventing these discoveries from being made. Puma Punku. 70 kilometers west of the Andes city of La Paz lies one of the most enigmatic ancient structures on Earth. Puma Punku. Built with huge stone structures like the pyramids of Giza and Sacsayhuaman, it is an ancient city like no other. The stones are up to 8 meters tall, many of them weighing around 100 tons, and are of exquisite craftsmanship. It is so successful that it is thought that people at the time used machines or even lasers. The history of the region only adds to the enigma surrounding Puma Punku. Jason Yeager of the University of Wisconsin has established that the city had already been abandoned by the time the Incas arrived in 4470 BC. The Incas incorporated Puma Punku and its neighboring city of Tiwanaku into their territory and continued to spread their culture. Tiwanaku was home to 40,000 people and was the place where, according to the Incas, Viracocha, their most important god, created star people. Arthur Poznansky, the first to analyze Puma Punku in detail, was certain that the ancient structures were 17,000 years old. Neil Steed, director of the Early Sites Research Society, is a proponent of this view. The remains, located 15 to 20 meters deep in Lake Titicaca, which feeds Tiwanaku, prove that a civilization existed here 11 to 13,000 years ago, when the water level was low. The question of why it was built is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is how Puma Punku was built, and that is a complete mystery. It is certain that the rocks used were brought from 100 kilometers away. The surroundings of Puma Punku, which is 4 kilometers above sea level, were free of trees at the time it was built. It is therefore clear that it was impossible to obtain logs to carry the giant rocks on. The most fascinating detail is the Fuente Magna Bowl on the shore of Titicaca, one of the largest freshwater lakes in the world, which is the water source of Tiahuanaco. The bowl, it should be noted, has the cuneiform of the Sumerians, 8,000 kilometers away from Puma Punku. How did a language unknown to South American civilizations reach Tiahuanaco? Baalbek. The Temple of Jupiter in the ancient city of Baalbek in Lebanon is another mysterious ancient structure. Each of the 3 giant boulders placed horizontally at the base of the temple's columns weighs 800 tons. The surrounding rocks weigh 350 tons. In the nearby quarry, there is another unused rock weighing 1,000 tons. The Hajar al-Hibla rock, which appears to have been carved by hand, is just one of the many unanswered questions about the city built thousands of years before the Roman era. Baalbek is thought to have been founded between 7,000 and 12,000 BC. One theory for how the people who lived in the region at the time moved the huge boulders is acoustic levitation. This is a technology thought to have been brought to Earth by extraterrestrial civilizations. The foundation of the Temple of Jupiter consists of 27 boulders, each weighing hundreds of tons. In 2014, the German Archaeological Institute made a remarkable discovery near the Rock of the Pregnant Woman, the world's largest hand-carved boulder. Measuring 19.6 meters long, 6 meters wide, and 5.5 meters high, it weighs an impressive 1,750 tons. The mystery remains as to why the rock was not completed and left where it was. The reason and method behind the construction of Baalbek, which dates back long before the Romans, is unknown. However, there is a possibility of a closer connection with the Sumerians than with Puma Punku. Baalbek takes its name from Baal, a Phoenician god. The Romans called the city Heliopolis, a Greek name. It's a deep well. I am certain that every person in our country is aware of the unique underground city in Nevşehir. Derinkuyu boasts an astonishing array of amenities, including food stores, oil and wine pressing rooms, dining halls, prayer rooms, a school, and a flawless ventilation system. The city is large enough to accommodate between 20,000 and 50,000 people. It was built by the Phrygians in the 8th century BC and expanded during the Byzantine period. The city, which was completely unearthed, goes down to 85 meters below the ground, despite having been discovered in the 1960s. The first 8 floors, which are open to visitors, go down to about 50 meters. To close the tunnels of the underground city when necessary, circular rock hatches with a diameter of 1.5 meters and a weight of 500 kilograms were even designed. Derinkuyu, which has been used by different civilizations since 3000 BC, was also home to the first Christians fleeing from the Roman armies. Derinkuyu is named after 52 water wells at depths of 60-70 meters. The perfect underground city, which dates back tens of thousands of years and provides life for thousands of people, has one clear answer to the question of who built it. One theory is that it was built by ancient astronauts who wanted to escape from a disaster in ancient times. Cydonia. Finally, we come to the Cydonia region of Mars, a structure detected outside the Earth. Many scientists are convinced that Cydonia is the result of pareidolia, which is defined as making objects look like human faces. Those who argue otherwise are wrong. Cydonia represents a city on the Giza Plateau, which contains an exact replica of ancient Egyptian structures. It is worth noting that when searching for Cydonia online, the majority of results show a large structure that resembles a face. However, Cydonia also contains many different pyramid-like structures. We simply don't know whether Cydonia is an optical illusion or a truly ancient settlement until someone goes to Mars and says they have seen it. Before making any judgments, we must look carefully at the information about Cydonia. A photograph taken by NASA's Viking spacecraft in 1976 showed a human-looking face. People who are interested in astronomy know that there are many factors in the photographs taken by spacecraft. These include the filter used, the angle of light, and the atmosphere. In short, the face-like structure was an optical illusion. By 2001, the photographs taken by the Mars Global Surveyor, MGS, spacecraft definitively showed that the face was actually a jumbled structure. The resolution in the photograph taken in 1996 was 43 pixels per square meter. In the photograph taken in 2001, it was 1.56 meters per square meter. Discussing a place like Cydonia in today's climate is challenging. The constant back and forth between conspiracy theories and definitive scientific judgments makes it difficult to reach a conclusion. However, by understanding the structures that date back to the past of our planet, we can make serious arguments about the past of the solar system. In fact, people are already doing this. Their argument for Cydonia is straightforward. An ancient civilization once existed on Mars. It is a reasonable assumption that after a catastrophe on Mars, they came to the Nile Plateau and Mesopotamia, the most fertile lands on Earth. Richard Hoagland is one of those who argue that the giant structure in Cydonia is a face. He is certain that the face is a structure reflecting the Sphinx, the man-lion. In one of his presentations, he confidently folds the right side of a Viking photograph to the left side. A lion's face is clearly visible in the center. Another prominent figure in the field of geometric calculations and Cydonia research is David Flynn, who presented his findings alongside Hoagland. Flynn passed away in 2012. In his book, Cydonia, The Secret Chronicles of Mars, Flynn presents a compelling case for a plan of the gods through his geometric and mythological analyses of Earth's structures in relation to Cydonia. It is essential to conduct thorough research before formulating theories such as the existence of a Martian city on Cydonia.
We offer you deep historical information from History on YouTube channel. Subscribe. Now don't forget to turn on notifications.